Our business. We take the hassle out of searching, vetting, and scheduling private security guards for your unique needs. Just tell us what you need, when you need it, and we'll handle the rest. Guard Market Security Service partners are carefully screened and thoroughly vetted to meet the demanding needs of our diverse client base. Using advanced technology, we match you with the most qualified service provider based upon your specific needs and geographic requirements. For more information, you can visit our website at www.theguardmarket.com and call Andrew at 732-266-9344 with your service requests today. The Guard Market, security on demand.
Three Rivers Broadcasting and White Eagle Marketing attest to the opinions and offers expressed on the individual talk shows and programs broadcast on the station are those of the participants only and not necessarily those of the staff, management, or ownership of Three Rivers Broadcasting or its parent company, White Eagle Marketing. Callers to the programs broadcast on Three Rivers Broadcasting should know that their phone calls may be recorded and or rebroadcast.
All right, and a good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back here, Three Rivers Broadcasting. My name is Alex Fidrashevsky. I will be with you for the next hour here as we take to the world of sport once again. Last night we were here for the Pittsburgh Sports Report. Coach Kurjovsky and I had a fantastic show, if I may say so myself. I think we covered a lot of great topics, touched on a little controversy, but we're okay with that. We're okay stirring the pot, but we're here now for the corner kick. I'll be with you again for the next 55 minutes or so to discuss the world of soccer. So let's get into it. The Euros are going on right now, the European Championships, which were supposed to take place last summer. They got delayed to this summer, and the tournament's still taking place across the continent, which I was not a big fan of when they set this whole thing up, even back in 2014, where they said we're going to go continent-wide instead of being in one country. As they usually do, or even sometimes two countries will get the Euros. They set this around the whole continent. I wasn't a big fan of that then. I'm still not a fan of it as it's going on now. For example, yesterday, Italy took Switzerland to the cleaners in Rome. 3-0, 2 goals from Locatelli, 1 from Immobile. The Italians, the Azzurri, were masterful. They looked like a team ready to win this tournament. They have been magnificent under Roberto Mancini. They opened up with a fantastic win over Turkey in Rome. They look great. But again, Switzerland opened the tournament on the 12th in Baku in Azerbaijan. They drew Wales. Then they had to fly about 6 hours to Rome to play a couple of days later. And again, I'm not a fan of that. The idea of doing it in one or two countries, and you're flying, and in Europe, you're flying, let's say you did Austria, Hungary, or Poland, Ukraine, you're flying 1 hour, 2 hours. That's one thing. When you're going 6 hours, that's like a World Cup here in the United States. And even we try to keep the group stages something reasonable where, you might play your first game in Charlotte, your second game in Orlando, and your third game in Atlanta. Everything's within an hour flight. That makes sense. The Euros, they didn't do it that way. Half the group games of this group of Group A were in Baku, and then Italy, kind of as the host, if you will, got to play all their games at Stadio Olimpico. Now, Italy could have played this game in Tajikistan and still probably won 3-0. They're that good right now. They have assured themselves passage now to the knockout phase on 6 points from those two games. And Wales is assured of a top 3 finish where they could possibly make the knockout phase. Wales and Italy is the final game here on the 20th in Group A. So Italy, again, has advanced. And, again, I think they have asserted themselves as one of the favorites to win the tournament. They have looked absolutely fantastic. I've gotten to see quite a few of these games. I've been fairly impressed with Belgium. I think that the group is a little weak. And then Denmark, you have to now discount because of the incident that took place with Christian Eriksen, who had a heart attack in the opening game against Finland. And thankfully he is on his way to recovery, but from what it sounds like, his career is most likely finished. Because he did have he suffered a cardiac arrest and they put a defibrillator in. He's having surgery for that. So unfortunately, a career of one of the best Danish players of all time, who he's played for Ajax, for Tottenham, for Inter. Several hundred games, and he has been masterful his entire career. Over 100 caps for the Danish national team, along with 30-plus goals for Denmark for his country. Again, unfortunately, his career looks like it will be cut short. But again, thankfully, from what all reports are saying, he is on his way to making a recovery. But again, at 29, in his prime, it's terrible, when you see something like that happen, and a guy who still had probably 5 or 6 really good years in him have his career cut short. Is always tragic in that regard. And again, you kind of discount Denmark for the rest of this tournament. I think Denmark was a team that might have been able to take Belgium to the limit, and they played okay today. But it's hard to get up for the rest of the tournament after an incident like that. They lost the game to Finland, and Denmark is pretty much on its way out. They could still make the knockout stage. They would have to beat Russia in order to do it, and then need a whole host of other results in other groups to happen. But for Denmark, I think this tournament is a bit of a throwaway now, after, again, what happened to Christian Eriksen, their superstar player. Today, we got to see 2 matches in Group C, the second match day there. Ukraine 2-1 over North Macedonia, a result that I was not surprised by. Ukraine a little bit of a touch better. The Netherlands looked pretty good. The Dutch looked pretty good against Austria. Got to watch almost all of that here while I was making some phone calls this afternoon, setting up some meetings for next week for Three Rivers Broadcasting. The Dutch look solid. Do I think that they're good enough to win the tournament? I'm not so sure, but they were pretty solid on the day, and they've now assured themselves passage to the knockout stage. They were able to get past the pesky Ukraine side, and they are a host, so we should mention that too. They're playing their games in Amsterdam while everybody else in the group will jet back and forth between Bucharest and Amsterdam. The Dutch get to stay put, so the home teams do have a little bit of an advantage as far as that is concerned. Russia was able to get 2 home games in Group B. They did lose to Belgium, but bounced back with a win over Finland. And then obviously Italy is the host for Group A. They've done the job. And I said this again about Italy right at the top. You could have played that game anywhere. Italy's there right now. They're at the elite level. Tomorrow we've got 2 interesting matches. We've got Croatia and the Czech Republic at Hampden Park in Glasgow, and then England and Scotland coming up tomorrow as well. Now, I don't think that there is as much buzz about England versus Scotland being an elite game as there is about it's England versus Scotland. This is the first major tournament that Scotland has appeared in since the World Cup in 1998. And I don't think this Scotland side is as good as those guys were in 98. And it showed the first game. They were a co-host of the group along with England. So obviously Glasgow and London. England was able to beat a pretty tough Croatia team, got through that match. I think England will handily defeat Scotland. The Czech Republic defeated them 2-0 in the opening match for them in the group. Patrick Schick scored both goals for the Czech Republic. One of them was a real howler. He hit it from just about midfield. Goalkeeper was very out of position for Scotland on the play, but still, that's one of those highlight reel goals that for Schick, a guy who up and down at the club level, but he certainly turned it on at the national team level for the Czech Republic in that one. So I think, Croatia, Czech Republic should be a pretty decent game. England versus Scotland. England should walk away with this one. If the Czechs did them 2-0, I think England can probably hit 3 on them. This is a pretty good England side, and Scotland, again, not so hot on their end. Group E is the one that I've had the most interest in, and it started out with a dud for me, at least. Poland coming in against Slovakia. Wojciech Szczesny, there's an own goal 18 minutes in. It's a bit of a howler from the Polish goalkeeper, and Szczesny tends to handcuff the Polish side in big tournaments, whether it's poor play or just cards or whatever it is, injuries. It never seems to go well with Szczesny in goal for the Polish side. But even that own goal aside, the first half was bad for the Polish national team. JJ's not here tonight, but he had texted me during the match, and I talked to the coach afterwards, and we said for some of these guys, they went one tournament too far, and they're not good enough in the back. For as far as who they went too far, I think you could still argue that Krychowiak and Klich should have been in the squad. It was a couple of the guys in the back, specifically Rybus and Glik. They went, did they go one tournament too far on those guys? Maybe, maybe not. But regardless, the first half, they were bad. They were disjointed. I'm actually on a Polish soccer chat, if you will, with some other media guys who are Polish soccer, fans, Polish Americans and Canadians and Brits and things like that. And the messages going up throughout the first half were just generally, we look disorganized. This isn't good. Not a good start. And again, the first half was bad. Whatever Sousa said to them in the locker room at halftime and the adjustments they made, it clicked. They came out and scored probably 30 seconds into the second half, tied the game up, played really well for a stretch of about 20 minutes in the second half. And then Krychowiak, who was already on a yellow card, goes in for a challenge, boots the guy, gets on it, steps on his foot, goes in, leans on the challenge for a challenge he should have pulled out of because he's on a yellow card already. Gets him, and he knows. If you watched the game, you saw it. Krychowiak knew he was gone. He turned and he went to the ref. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Well, it's too late at that point. He got his walking papers sent to the dressing room. Poland goes down to 10. Skriniar scores 2, 3, 4 minutes later. Poland's on the back foot. Slovakia packs everybody in the back. And Poland, a team everyone was hoping could fire out of the group stage, is now in a very tight situation. Thankfully, a few hours later, Sweden bailed them out in a way because Sweden played Spain to a 0-0 draw in Seville. That was a match that I think everyone figured the Spanish side should get past them in. It was a good result for the Swedes to put them in a spot where they could possibly make the knockout phase now. And again, it also gave Poland a lifeline, but it is a very slim lifeline. Poland needed points off the Slovakia game, preferably 3. Didn't get it. Now they're at 0, so you got to go to Spain next. And then again, Spain's the host, so they're going to Spain and need a result. Now, do you push for 3 against Spain? I don't know. You might be better off playing it out the way Sweden did and settle for a point if you can get it. Smash and grab a goal, take the game, and then turn around and have to beat Sweden on the last day. and hope that Slovakia now, if you're a Polish fan, because we're on Group E, I'll talk about it from my perspective. If you're a fan of Poland, you need Slovakia to run the table now and take 9 points out of the group. You want them to beat Sweden, beat Spain. Slovakia goes to 9. Poland draws Spain. Poland goes to 1. Spain goes to 2. Poland beats Sweden. Slovakia beats Spain to go to 9. Right? Poland goes to 4 points. Spain is at 2. And Sweden is at 1. Poland gets out of the group. For most of the guys in our little Polish chat there, our Polish media chat, that's the only foreseeable way out that we can come up with. Now, if you finish third, it's possible to get to the knockout stage. You're going to factor in points and goal differential there. You want to be in the top 2. So, again, for the Polish side, you are now the biggest Slovak national team fans there has ever been because you need them to take both games. And they could. They could. The Slovak side is always pesky in these tournaments. They're a quality side. I've thought for about 10 years now, the Slovak national team has been trending upward and upward and upward, and they continue to do that. They got a big boost with Marek Hamšík coming back into the national team. He's probably still their best player at age 33. But there are now other players in their squad who they can lean on that are younger, players who are in their prime or coming into their prime to get the job done. And I, for one, really liked the way they lined up against Poland. They used what you would say, if you're a soccer person, you know it. It's almost like a false 9. They didn't have a striker on the field for the game. They only brought 3 to the tournament. And I wasn't expecting Boženík, the 21-year-old from Feyenoord, to really get a ton of burn. I think they brought a few because they figured if we need some firepower, we could do it and throw one in. But they played essentially 6 midfielders, and they really did. They really did the job. Their first half, they were fantastic against Poland. Poland had a couple of runs, but nothing to write home about. And I think, listen, Slovakia, they'll take their shot against Sweden. I think they could get past them. For Poland, it could come down to needing a draw against Spain and then hoping Slovakia wins to get out of the group. Portugal looked good in a win over Hungary. Cristiano Ronaldo still kicking along. Goals in the 87th and 92nd minutes to a 3-0 win in front of 60,000 in Bucharest because Hungary has no restrictions. They are one of the, I think, they might be the only place that took all the restrictions off as far as attendance. I think the Russians went about 50%. I think Denmark went about 50%. But the Puskás Arena in Budapest, 55,662 for Portugal. And Hungary is one of the co-hosts of the group along with Germany. So Hungary will be home against France, who defeated Germany. Own goal from Mats Hummels. The only difference in that match, France still on paper one of the favorites to win the tournament. I think coming into the tournament, France was considered the top dog, and they're in a very, very tough group along with Germany and Portugal. There is no easy road through. I think they'll beat Hungary handily. I think everybody will. But they still face a tough final match with Portugal. And Germany can still go to 6 points as well. So France should get to 6. The next game should be enough to get out of the group. Germany can, as I said, again, Germany could get there too. But France certainly looking good to get out. Right now, there's obviously still, some games to play. The way it would look to advance out of the third place teams, you would have Austria out of Group C, Finland out of Group B. We'll know more after the next couple of days because you can't really look at it and say, well, who's the favorite to go out when they've only played one game. But we know that the Netherlands have won Group C, and that Italy has advanced out of Group A, and Belgium out of Group B. Again, I'd said this at the top of the show. I'm not a fan of the tournament being sprayed around the continent. Didn't think it was necessary. And with all the restrictions on travel right now in Europe, which are much, much more draconian than what we've dealt with at all at any point in the United States for the most part, except maybe if you're in California. I thought bouncing it around the continent was a bit foolish, and that they probably should have tried to coalesce this into 2 or 3 countries that were more open, let's say, like a Hungary or a Russia, where they don't have as many restrictions on travel, where they don't have as many restrictions on numbers or attendance. There's a glut of matches in the knockout stage coming up through London, and there's still a lot of heavy restrictions in the UK and on travel in the UK. And again, we're not, this isn't a political program, but we have to talk about the environment that's going on right now over there as it relates to fan travel. And I think that makes it a little tougher than if you were going again to countries where they've relaxed the rules. And whether you feel they should or shouldn't, that's not what we're here to talk about. They've relaxed the rules in Hungary. There were 60,000 in Budapest. Should they have moved the tournament to some of those countries to make it easier for folks to get to not have to go sit in a hotel for a week or whatever before the game because they're dangerous or whatever the governments over there say it is. Again, we're not talking about that here. It's just something that I have to bring up because there's travel involved in this tournament. We'll monitor the Euros. We'll talk about it more. I've covered all the groups right now. The knockout stage begins in a week. We know that the Netherlands are off to Budapest on June 27th for the start of the round of 16. And there's more matches coming up. And again, I've broken down quite a few of them already. And the next set is obviously, again, Croatia, Czech Republic, England, Scotland. The media will make a huge deal out of England, Scotland, and they have. And, they're already ramping up for tomorrow. England versus Scotland, England versus Scotland, England versus Scotland, the whole thing. And that's fine. I don't think the game is going to match up to the hype because Scotland can't hold it up on their end. They just don't have the talent. It's a smaller nation than England. They hype up the rivalry more than the actual match because England should handle them. One of the most interesting things that's come out of the group stage has been the reaction to sponsorship that has been going on. So UEFA had to issue a statement today reminding teams of contractual obligations after Cristiano Ronaldo, probably one of the most influential men on earth as far as social media and opinions, sat down to do his pre-match news conference ahead of Portugal's win against Hungary on Monday. And Coca-Cola is a sponsor of the Euros. And part of the branding is that Coca-Cola got to have 2 bottles of Coca-Cola at the press stand. Heineken's also a sponsor. And their deal was they got to have a bottle of Heineken. So Cristiano Ronaldo, who, if you've never seen a photo of Cristiano Ronaldo, and if you're a soccer fan, obviously you have, and you know, but if you're a Three Rivers person and you're just getting into soccer because of us and because of what I'm doing here and what we're going to be building with the rest of the rest of the guys, JJ and the coach and all these other folks that we're working on bringing in for corner kick. You may not know. Well, Cristiano Ronaldo is probably one of the most jacked dudes, for lack of better term, that you're ever going to meet in your life. He's like 36, 37 years old. He doesn't have a six-pack. He has like a 24-pack. This guy takes immaculate care of himself. Like, all professional athletes are in great shape. And if you see these guys, soccer players, basketball players, whatever, without a shirt on, they're all pretty ripped. Cristiano Ronaldo takes this to a whole nother level. So he clearly values his health and his nutrition and his exercise, and he's very regimented. I've read about what he does as far as his diet and what he eats and what he doesn't eat, and it's no secret that, and he's made no secret about it, that he's not a fan of carbonated beverages, that he's not a fan of soda specifically because of its high sugar content. He doesn't think it's good for athletes, and I don't know if that may be for anyone, because he always says he always kind of yells at his kids if he finds them sneaking a Coke. Well, he sat down and he moved the Coke bottles out of the shot. He looked at them, looked up, looked down, looked up, looked down, took the Coke bottles, slid them out of the picture, and then he held up a bottle that he had with him. And in Portuguese, he said, "Aqua." He said, "Water. Water is what you drink." And he put the water bottle down. And Pogba did the same thing a day later. Now, Paul Pogba from France, Pogba is Muslim. So he sat down to do his conference, and he took the Heineken bottle, put it off to the side. And then Locatelli from Italy took the Coke bottles and pushed them off to the side as he met with journalists. So Ronaldo started this mini movement of these guys saying, okay, they're the sponsor. Drink the water instead. Well, Coca-Cola didn't like that. And neither did Heineken. And I understand they're paying lots of money for the branding and lots of money for the sponsorship. And, you know, a lot of people would say, well, that, you know, the guys should just suck it up and, you know, leave it there. But the same people who would say the guys should suck it up and leave it there would defend anything LeBron James wants to say. So if we're going to do good for the goose, it's got to be for the gander. But anyway, UEFA had to issue a statement because Coca-Cola's value dropped by $4 billion because Cristiano Ronaldo, the most influential soccer person in the world right now, moved their sodas out of the shot and went water. $4 billion dent in share following Cristiano Ronaldo simply going water. And the company responded in a statement that, quote, everyone is entitled to their drink preferences with, quote, different tastes and needs. Cristiano Ronaldo may have ripped the Band-Aid off the Coca-Cola argument worldwide now. Because I follow a lot of nutritionists on Instagram, and a lot of them have now kind of taken this as the platform to say it's not good for you. A lot of nutritionists have now taken that and run with it. So you want, you know, that all plays into Coke's drop. And again, Coke is a sponsor, and should the players just sit there with the Coke bottles in front of them, or Heineken, you know, if for Pogba? And I know, you know, Ronaldo may have his ideological differences with soda. Pogba, for religious reasons, you know, may not want to have beer represented with him when he's Islamic. You know, I can understand why that would be. So, you know, at the same time, should they just sit there, do the conference, get up, and leave? That's a tough call. That's a really, really tough call. And I think the companies themselves made a mistake before they want to jump at Ronaldo And there are players who jumped in and said, "Hey, yeah, we'll work with Coca-Cola," and that's fine. They're allowed to do it. Good for them. Yarmolenko was laughing, rearranging the bottles after they beat Macedonia. I'm going to move the Coke bottles here and the Heineken here, and he just kind of flopped them around. And then he went, Coke and Heineken, give me a call. There's going to be people who do that, and that's fine. They think they'll jump on the bandwagon or whatever. But I think Coke and Heineken made a mistake, and UEFA made a mistake to allow them to do that. It's one thing for Heineken to have its television spots before the match and at halftime, and Coca-Cola the same. You watch the Champions League. Heineken has some very creative soccer commercials, so whoever's running that for them for the marketing is really smart. And they get their branding in. They get their big banner, on the sideline, the scrolling, they show they're LED now, but, they used to be the scrolling banners. Now they're LED, but you get the Heineken logo up there and interspersed with all the other advertisers. Same with Coca-Cola. They throw the branding up on the screen. There's a lot of impression for Coke and for Heineken during this tournament. I'm sure that I'm not over there, but I'd be willing to bet that a lot of the beer tents outside the stadiums are sponsored by Heineken. There's a lot of branding for it. And to put a prop in the press room with guys like this, specifically highly trained, it's one thing if it's a coach. The gaffer probably doesn't care. If it's the manager of the Hungarian national team, he'll sit down probably and just go, okay, so what do we need to talk about today? A lot of these finely tuned athletes, they don't drink soda. They don't drink beer. Some of them, they'll drink wine, but a lot of them don't do it, at least not during the season. A lot of them won't touch that stuff. So I get why you sell the sponsorship to Coke and why Coke wants that deal, because billions of eyes around the world are on this tournament. There was a better way to get their branding in than to put the prop in front of the world's most physically fit soccer player who is public about what he thinks of soda. And I know this isn't necessarily on pitch related thing. There was a better way to go about it. They have plenty of branding. Did you need to put the prop in there? And I wonder if that conversation's what's going on at Coke and Heineken, or if they haven't thought about it and they're too up in arms to say, oh, that jerk, he did that. You enabled it. You put a product in front of Cristiano Ronaldo, who he was at one of the award ceremonies, and he was making jokes on the stage, saying, I yell at my son all the time, and the son's sitting down there. I yell at my son, and I see him. He eats a chocolate bar. And he flat out said, he goes, I'm pissed when I see him eat a chocolate bar. I get pissed off at him. It said that at one of the award ceremonies. So somebody didn't do their homework at Coca-Cola to say, let's put that in front of Ronaldo, who is vocally against drinking our product. But we're a sponsor for the tournament, and if Ronaldo doesn't want to be associated with Coca-Cola or Heineken or whatever it is, because he's not a fan of chocolate, added sugars, and soda, it was a mistake to do it. And by putting the prop in front of him, you're now saying to the viewer, Cristiano Ronaldo, Coke, one in the same, and if Ronaldo doesn't want to be associated with that, tossed it off to the side. And to show how much power he had, again, as I said, Coca-Cola's valuation dropped by $4 billion just because Cristiano Ronaldo moved a bottle. That was the knee-jerk reaction from investors in Coke who lost it because Ronaldo moved the bottle. But at the end of the day, I say it's not Ronaldo's fault. If he doesn't want to be associated with Coke, why should he have to be? We let the athletes here run the show. So you can't get angry at him. But he's got that much power, apparently. But Coke didn't do their homework. Coke didn't do their homework to say, okay, we can put it in front of Andrei Yarmolenko. We can put it in front of Harry Kane. Find out, hey, who's cool with it, who's not. Because if you knew who was cool with it, you'd sit there and go, okay, Gareth Southgate, manager of England. Gareth, do you care if Coca-Cola puts the branding on? I know that everybody's going to say, oh, that's too much work. To avoid an event like this where you lose $4 billion in value, you do your homework. And you say, does Cristiano Ronaldo drink soda? Oh, here's this video of him saying, I hate Coca-Cola, essentially. They didn't say Coke, but essentially he was like, I don't like soda. I yell at my kid for drinking a Coke. You may have want to think twice about that one. The same goes for Pogba. If you're Heineken, what are you thinking? I get it. Oh, it's a blanket sponsorship. It's going to be there. Pogba's a practicing Muslim. I know the beer was alcohol-free, but first off, there's still alcohol in alcohol-free beer. It's not 0.0%. So for Pogba, now you have a religious conundrum. And we like conundrums these days, so let's talk about conundrums. Where was Heineken's marketing team to sit there and go, gee, maybe it's a bad idea to put beer in front of Paul Pogba and expect him to not do something about it? And not be able to put two and two together that Paul Pogba, Islamic, beer. It doesn't, like, 2 + 2 = 5 for Heineken, apparently. They didn't put 2 and 2 together to say, this might not be a good idea, and he might move the bottle. And it doesn't matter that it was alcohol-free. He might move the bottle. Maybe we should talk to the British players and talk to guys like Harry Kane and Gareth Southgate or Robert Lewandowski, who every Oktoberfest is at the Hofbrauhaus with Bayern Munich, and he's there in his lederhosen and all of his boots and all of this, and his wife and all of that, and they're all out there. Him and Thomas Muller, they got their huge steins filled of beer, and they're sitting there smiling with the Hofbrau beers in their hand with the big logo on it. Hofbrau, yeah, ein Prosit, the two of them sitting there together. We're best friends, you know? Maybe those were the guys you should have went and talked to. And that's, again, on that's on the companies. You know, and part of you could say, and there are people who could say, well, the players should just sit there and talk. They shouldn't worry about the branding. But if they're going to be associated with what's in front of them and they feel that strongly about it and you give them the prop, there's a good chance, probably over 50%, somebody's going to act on it. And if one of the big guns acts on it, then everybody can do it. So next time, Coke and Heineken probably should think twice about what they did. And should have done their homework business-wise. Here we are. This would have been a great topic when I was back in Bethlehem on Business 101 with Scott Jingold. Scott, if you're out there, this would be a great topic to talk about. There's a lot of sponsors in sports, and their money goes a long way to help sports function. It does. And there's a lot of ways to have your branding out there. But I think we got two companies that made a mistake, that didn't think the whole situation through. And again, some guys took one side. You had Locatelli and Pogba and them go one way, and then the English guys went the other. Southgate said, hey, they're sponsors. They do it, it is what it is. But Southgate, I think we found out where Southgate stood, where he says there's a bigger picture to things and whatnot. But he also kind of put in there, hey, we have to be mindful in our country of obesity and health, and realize that, everything can be done in moderation. Anything you take part in moderation isn't necessarily, it's rarely a problem. And Harry Kane kind of echoed that, saying, the sponsors are entitled to it if they want. They've paid the money to do so. And I agree. They paid for the bottles to be there. But you put a prop up. And just because you paid for the prop doesn't mean that everybody's going to follow it. Especially the guys they're untouchable. Coca-Cola can cry all they want, but Cristiano Ronaldo is untouchable. There's nothing you can do to penalize him for what he did that won't come back around and have big public outcry. Paul Pogba is in the same position. He's socially popular in soccer. Do I think he's one of the best players in the world? No, I think Paul Pogba's had a lot of cover at every club he's ever played at, and anytime he hasn't had the cover, he's been exposed. But he's still he's great, but he's not in the top 5. But Pogba, because of his social status and his popularity, Pogba's largely untouchable. There's really nothing you can do to him. So if they want to move the bottle, they can do it. So maybe next time they should think twice about what to do with their branding and their endorsements and all of that good stuff. We've gone 45 minutes. I actually haven't taken a break. I want to thank our fine sponsor, St. Gabriel the Sorrowful Virgin Catholic School, founded on faith, second to none, Whitehall, Pennsylvania, here in the South Hills. For over 70 years, they have provided a fantastic faith-based Catholic education to the youth in the greater Pittsburgh area. If you live in the South Hills, you're never more than 15 minutes away from St. Gabe's, and they are located in a beautiful, quiet residential neighborhood. The school is large enough to serve you and small enough where your child will still be known by their first name by everybody in the building. Principal Millitzer does a fantastic job over there, and we at Three Rivers Broadcasting are very excited to be working with the Diocese of Pittsburgh. Do have to fit in, again, a commercial break here. We're going to hear from three of our sponsors. We're going to get from the Guard Market, Gym Rat Performance Training, and Carnegie Ironworks. Then we'll be back for the last 15 minutes to wrap up the program.
The Guard Market is a digital marketplace that provides customers with access to licensed security professionals on demand. Let's face it, you have a lot to do running your business, and security, well, that's our business. We take the hassle out of searching, vetting, and scheduling private security guards for your unique needs. Just tell us what you need, when you need it, and we'll handle the rest. Guard Market security service partners are carefully screened and thoroughly vetted to meet the demanding needs of our diverse client base. Using advanced technology, we match you with the most qualified service provider based upon your specific needs and geographic requirements. For more information, you can visit our website at www.theguardmarket.com and call Andrew at 732-266-9344 with your service requests today. The Guard Market, security on demand. Are you an athlete looking to take your game and performance to the next level? Gym Rat Performance Training is where Pittsburgh's elite competitors go to train. We specialize in personal training, strength, speed, and agility training, sports-specific training, and we offer the best basketball player development in the City of Champions. If you are ready to transform your body, expand your mind, and reach your potential, it's time to join the Rat Pack at gymratpt.com. That's GYMRATPT.com. Gym Rat Performance Training, punishing Pittsburgh since 2016 because rats don't rest. Carnegie Ironworks is Pittsburgh's go-to for artistic, unique, and decorative steel and iron designs. We provide custom fencing, interior and exterior railings, outdoor fire pits, window coverings, and much more. If you can think of it, we can fabricate it. Find us on the web at www.carnegieiron.com. That's Carnegie Ironworks, for when you need it for 500 years.
All right, welcome back here to The Corner Kick. I'm Alex Fidrashevsky, again flying solo tonight. We're going to try to get some guests in here next week to talk about some things. And we've got a busy summer schedule here. We've got the Euros going on now. We spent about 45 minutes talking about the Euros, and that's obviously still in the group stage going. Then we've got the CONCACAF Gold Cup, and we roll right into World Cup qualifying after that. And Copa America also going on in South America at the same time. It's a really, really congested summer for national teams. Copa America going on right now. They've just begun the tournament there. They're only some teams haven't even played one match yet. I haven't really had a chance to see too much. I know the coach watched Paraguay play against Bolivia and saw their 3-1 win again over Bolivia. Said that Paraguay looked okay. Kaku, Alejandro Gamaro, used to play for Red Bull, now plays in Saudi Arabia, had one goal. He said Kaku should have had 3 or 4 of them. Again, I missed the match, so I can only relay what the coach said. Brazil looked pretty good. I saw a touch of that in their win over Venezuela 3-0. So they're very early on in that tournament, and that'll go on until July the 10th in Brazil. Those games are also being played in front of empty stadiums still right now, for the record, just because we should make note of that. Those matches down there, Copa America, still being played in empty stadiums. But the Gold Cup, that is our next focus here as far as the United States is concerned. There will be a qualifying round for the Gold Cup in early July. The 2nd, 3rd, and then the 6th. There's 2 rounds of it to see who gets into to the Gold Cup. There are 3 spots that are still open. The teams that will be taking place in the qualifying round are mostly Caribbean teams, along with Guatemala. Guatemala will match up with Guyana in the first round in Fort Lauderdale. All of these matches are being played in Fort Lauderdale at the Miami MLS Stadium. That pitch is going to get torn up. I'm sorry, I had to say that. You're going to pack 6 matches into 2 days and then another 3 on July the 6th. Oh, poor Miami. That field is going to be destroyed after you play that many matches on it in a short period of time. I hope David Beckham's got the checkbook ready, because he's going to have to write some turf company a check for that. But you've got Haiti and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Bermuda and Barbados. The winners of that will match up. Guatemala, Guyana, Guadeloupe, and the Bahamas. Trinidad, Tobago versus Montserrat. Cuba against French Guiana on July the 3rd to wrap up that whole qualifying round. Now, if I'm going to put picks on it, who the 3 teams are, I think the finals, Bermuda, Haiti. Haiti gets past Bermuda. Guatemala probably against Guadeloupe is going to be my best guess. Guadeloupe can play. They can play a little bit. Do they get past Guatemala? Guatemala is they've struggled quite a bit. They can beat Cuba, Puerto Rico, BVI. They can get past those teams. Can they get to the next level, though? Seems to be a problem for them. Trinidad should beat Montserrat fairly handily, though Montserrat has gone full-on dual national. There was a volcanic eruption in Montserrat 20 years ago or 30 years ago now, and essentially the entire island had to leave, and most of them went to the United Kingdom. And here's where Montserrat could pose a problem for Trinidad. Montserrat's going to roll into this thing with 26 players who play in England. The whole team plays in England. And some of these guys have made it to a decent level. You have defender, and they're a little older, so these are guys who are kind of duals. They're never going to play for England, but they can sure make Montserrat competitive in CONCACAF. Crewe, Alexandra, Shrewsbury Town, Gillingham, Bolton Wanderers, Dagenham and Redbridge, Nottingham Forest. They're bringing in some decent players. And their results in 2021, now that they've brought these guys in, Montserrat used to really be a bit of a whipping post. You go in, you pound them 10-0 because they had to play with whoever was left on the island for a long time, and they didn't really make the connections to get these other players in. Well, in 2021, they drew Antigua Barbuda 2-2. They had a nice 1-1 draw with El Salvador. They beat the Virgin Islands, U.S., 4-0, beat Grenada 2-1. So Montserrat's not bad. Now, all of a sudden, are they good enough to really get to the next level? Probably not yet. But they've got a bunch of guys who can really play. Can they get past Trinidad to get to the Gold Cup? We'll see. It'll be interesting to see if they can get there. And those three teams, along with invitee and 2022 World Cup host Qatar, will wrap up the teams that are in it. So there's 4 pots. USA, Mexico, Costa Rica, Honduras are in 1. Jamaica, Canada, Panama, El Salvador, and they've drawn this already. So you've got Mexico, El Salvador, Curacao, and one of the winners. U.S., Canada, Martinique, and a winner. Costa Rica, Jamaica, Suriname, and a winner. And then Honduras, Panama, Grenada, and then Qatar. Qatar will probably bring, my guess, the full team. They play a very, very, very busy schedule and will, for the most part of the next 2 years, a wild amount of friendlies as they are hosts of the 2022 World Cup, so they don't have to worry about qualifying matches this cycle. They do have to partake in the Asian, it's technically World Cup qualifying, but it's also the Asian Cup qualifiers. They are using them for the same for 2023. So Qatar has to play those. But I would suspect that they're going to bring their top team. Now, their whole team plays in the league in Qatar, but they've put a lot of money into the sport. They've got the World Cup there. Do I expect them to win a tournament like this? No. But they can compete. Their league's gotten half decent in as far as the Arabian Peninsula is concerned. They're okay. A lot of foreign coaches there. Some great foreign players have ended their careers there. So they've got something going on. For me, in the last 5 minutes, I think I'll want to touch on something I brought up last week. It's that the United States, people have said, well, should the U.S. and Canada bring their A teams, or should the U.S. and Canada bring B sides? I think there's too much going on this year to bring the A teams in for both the United States and Canada, and maybe even for El Tri for Mexico. You got 8 World Cup qualifiers still to go, and potentially 5 in this tournament after the U.S. has already played 4. There was one match in Camp Cupcake in January, but then you had 2 in March, and then you played 4 in the last round, May 30, June 3, June 6, June 9. Now you got this tournament, then it's World Cup qualifying, for the rest of the year. Congested couple of months. I mean, again, 3 in September, 3 in October, 2 in November. No Camp Cupcake, 2 World Cup qualifiers in January. And then 1 right at the beginning of February, 3 in March. Pulisic and those kids' legs are going to get tested. So for me, and we'll get into it a little more maybe next week, I think that bringing in B squads would be the wise choice. And we may have rosters already, or at least preliminary rosters for next week. For the United States, that can still mean a very strong team. I think David Ochoa, 20-year-old goalkeeper from Salt Lake, is in. I don't think you'll see, Ethan Horvath back, but David Ochoa is in. Walker Zimmerman called in late for the last thing, played a game. Walker Zimmerman, center back, Nashville. He probably in there. Jackson Ewell and Sebastian Lletget and Kellen Acosta, 50-50 if they're going to be in. Because you might see specifically Sebastian Lletget and probably, for better or worse, Kellen Acosta in a roster for the World Cup qualifiers. I think Sebastian Lletget's the best American in MLS right now. So he's a guy who you rest him, you save him, because he's got to play through the summer too. And then you're going to need him for that haul of 12 qualifiers. Daryl Dike in the squad, because this is the showcase tournament for him, and he's going to be a regular in the national team, but you have to give Reyna and Sargent and Pulisic and these guys a rest. Daryl Dike is in the squad. Then it really becomes who else? Who else? There's a lot of options. They could bring in some younger European guys who maybe, won't be in the World Cup picture. That's a possibility. To bring in Eric Palmer-Brown, 24-year-old defender from Austria Vienna. Chris Richards, a 21-year-old who was on loan to Hoffenheim from Bayern Munich. We'll break that down a little more next week. But we've pretty much run out of time for Corner Kick for this week. Got through 2 topics. And we'll have more again next week. Want to end it on one thing. Landon Donovan has taken on some type of official, unofficial role with Lincoln City in England, League One side, 3rd Division. He has taken on a strategic advisor role, whatever that means. Arizona businessman Harvey Jabara is now a minority owner of the team. He's bought a share. And Donovan's job is to, quote, work with the front office to enhance the club's profile in America. Donovan started following them on the advice of a friend last year who's an FIFA intermediary. And he said, my role at this point in any way, if they need anything with help, I'm happy to help. So whatever that means, Landon Donovan is now associated with Lincoln City. Don't know if that means he's going to give them training advice, business advice, soccer advice, go over there. I don't know. But they want to, it's great for all, and it says the club can benefit from Landon and his experience. They finished, they won League Two in 2018, 2019. So, for whatever it means, at the end of the show, our anticlimactic story is Landon Donovan is doing something with Lincoln City that I don't even think Landon Donovan knows what he is. He's an advisor. We'll just say it that way. Landon Donovan is an advisor. But again, that'll do it for Corner Kick. Thanks for checking in. Have a great week, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back here to do it again next week. And hopefully we'll have more great things to talk about. Maybe we'll even have a guest or two. Have a great week. God bless. Ciao for now.